Hello, once again. We streaming. We live. So let's go ahead and get started. Probably a shorter stream today, as the name implies. But we'll see. I'm hoping to get a little bit done, but I'm pretty tired, so got a lot on my mind lately. But I wanted to get something in here. The last time we left off, we were taking care of some of these frames here. And oh my gosh, it's starting to get laggy. Which, not crazy about how much bigger that hand gets. Honestly, I'm not crazy about a lot of things with this frames. I'm actually tempted to resize a couple of the arms here. That one's fine. This one's small now. I'm gonna make this one bigger as well. May have to make the other one bigger. Not yet. Getting the proportions on his arms right has been one of the biggest challenges, honestly. Let's see what that buys me. Looks much more proportional when it comes to the transition on there. Like I've been saying, I really need to oh, I forgot to do the lines on his horns. Horn, rather. Alright, and this should be right here and right here. Is we have our representation here. This kind of tells me the timing that we're going for. Let me try something. Let's do bilinear. Ah, ha ha ha. That is much better. I don't know why I had that other setting on. That really preserves the line work a lot better. I guess it would potentially be annoying if you're trying to keep... Well, no, that wouldn't be a bad thing. I was going to say if you're trying to keep monochrome, but that's what the monochrome setting is for. Underlying data doesn't matter so much. Forward slightly. That should work. Come on. Okay. Actually, no, that doesn't make sense. What's up, Maddie? Good to see you. Ta-da. Actually, I need to move it over this way. That will. What am I making? I'm making an animation of a little character doing a thing. So right now I'm just doing the, really it's the rough animating. Well, actually no, that's not true. It's the tie down more than anything. But, he's not gonna have any cleanup done on him. So this is actually gonna be the final line work. Because I just don't feel like doing cleanup. But this is the whole animation so far. So it's coming along. Maybe I will do that animation on 1. Like and subscribe, I appreciate that. Alright, let's go ahead. So, right now I'm trying to get this movement right. And I need to remember that I need to shrink that down a bit so I can get a sharper line. Oh, this isn't the right. Dang it. Okay. That's the second time I've done that. I used the wrong pencil. Oh, that's alright. I also need to shrink this down. Probably why it's a little light. Thank you. I actually need to push this up a little bit more. Nickname is Matt. Good to know. I'm not warmed up, so I'm going to be surprised if I actually get this done in any reasonable amount of time. I was really hoping to have this part of the animation done by the end of this month, but it's not looking like that's going to be the case. I'm not familiar with what that is there, Matt. That's not correct either. There's still some reference here. let's go and take a look at what the reference about there. Go ahead and give ourselves let's see what the not terribly precise. No, we need to give ourselves something a bit more precise. What did I do with the arm? I'm gonna have to do the arm by hand, huh? Probably gonna do... Boy, I hope that comes out right. It might not. I may need to redraw this arm, honestly. This is... I don't know. Maybe not. Hold on. It might work out. Let me do a quick little sketch of the arm. Okay, not that flex. So there's a thing in animation for roughs and such where you'll see them draw like an arm, or a lot of times it's like eyes or something like that, and get that movement down really close. See what that looks like. I need to drag this back over. That might work. I could do an overshoot. Oh, come on. Yeah. I think that'll work. Only one, well, hold on. Only one real way to find out here. A little higher. A little higher. I do like it kind of being flipped out like that, but for now... I'm actually gonna reshape this to be a bit flatter. Lower. Something really pops up quick, so maybe... What's up, Yang? Good to see you. Good to have you back. Looks good, thank you. Something tells me this arm's going to be really annoying. I'm trying to really focus on getting that right now. Eventually... How many frames are in between? Quite a few frames in between here and here. Timing correct? I think you're doing. Yeah. Because you have the passing frame and whatnot. So you'll have to just get that right. This hand should be relatively easy. Let's go and do that. The only part I don't like is actually this frame, because the arm is needs to be out more. Maybe not that high. That's alright. I actually do think it's smoother like that. Once again, I don't think he needs to shift. Well, actually, let's actually pick this up like so, like that. We're actually going to push this out more since we're not transitioning from there anymore. That's better. Right. Let's keep the energy levels up. Yo, King Bob, long time no see. How you doing? Their obligation of legend. Let's go. You've been slipping on your weekly hike over this. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Hope things are going alright. Well, better than lately, at least. Sounds like. Just don't isolate yourself too much. Never a good thing. Glad you're at least feeling well enough to come join the stream for a bit. Hopefully that's about the sign that you're in better spirits, and this is a stream that'll maybe pick those spirits up a bit. Important note, he's not a demon. Although that is one of the first things that Addie, the girl that he hangs out with, that's like when they first meet, she asks him if he's a demon. He's like, no, demons are scary. I'm gonna... You know, it's kind of funny. I had an idea for a thought exercise for characters It's like really easy to do where if you're listening to music, thinking of a scenario through where the song that you're listening to comes on the radio and how your character would respond to it, so whether they'd be into it or not. But sometimes it's kind of fun to do that. Helps you kind of figure your characters out a bit. You guys think about this? Maybe a little too much, honestly. What do I have for the... Yeah, he really kind of clomps his foot down, which is what I want. So I'll need to try to capture that. And then for this side of things, I'll need to figure that out. And he's also clompy. Get paid to do very little. Yeah, same. Hoping to change that here. Come on. The heck? There we go. That is always the hard part, isn't it? Especially in such a competitive field and whatnot. Sometimes I think about that with animation, you know, like... It's one of those things where when you're younger, you have all this time to like put towards stuff, right? And I was stretched across so many different things for so long that, you know, I wasn't able to animate as much as I would have liked. But at the same time, you know, experience in other fields does go a long way. I think it's about kind of focusing on the opportunities around you rather than being so fixated on a like one position, right? You know, kind of thing. Man, what the heck. And the thing, like, it's one of those things where, you know, fields are competitive, right? Like, I mean, I haven't gotten a lot of work, right? But I also haven't been looking very hard, and the reason is because, truth be told, I've been so much more focused on like the opportunities in front of me that are actually coming through, even if they're kind of lesser, if you will. That like quote unquote lesser, I should say. And I'll get to that. And the reason is because you know, you put a lot in the line when you're like, I'm gonna do this and gonna do specifically this, you know. One of the professors that I had, actually he was a really great guy when I was in university, talked about what he called the road to Pixar, because a lot of the students that he would teach, you know, were like, oh, I'm gonna go work for Pixar and stuff like that, and that whole idea of like having that one-track mind, right? He's like, it doesn't work that way. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna get this kind of job, you know, right out the gate. And he's like, okay, most people think, you know, you have, right, like uni, right, and then you have Pixar, and this can be a stand-in for anything. And truth be told, this can be a stand-in for anything as well. This doesn't necessarily need to be uni, right? This could be doing lessons or what have you, like getting a skill. And a lot of people think it's like that, right? He's like, no, it's more like, and then that. If you even wind up there, because it may go like this, and then you wind up at a great job, you know. And then it's like, well, then who needs Pixar, you know? So, I don't know. I think about that a lot. You know, I've done a number of things. I'm about to do a completely different job coming up here. But in all of it, you know, my ultimate goal has been, I want to make what I want to make, right? And so you know, I'm focused on achieving that in some regard. And I don't know, I guess I just don't sweat the rest. Now, for some people, it's like, well, I want to get out of debt, or I want like a long-term career, or, you know, something I can rely on and stuff like that. And, you know, that's more pressing, right? Like, and sometimes it doesn't always work out, right? I mean, I want those things too, right? I want a long career, and it would be nice to have some stability and whatnot. But at the same time, even if I don't have those things, you know, it's easy to kind of count my blessings and say, well, I got an awful lot going, truth be told. So, I don't know. I know everyone's situation's different. You have those lulls. You have those things that are really tough. But, don't give up, you know? Like that oyster dude, that Japanese oyster guy. Never give up. You would be surprised there, King Bob. I do it more often than you would think. I think that's just me. But yeah, no, I do totally get it, though. Like, none of it's to downplay, you know, the struggle of it, right? Like, because it is tough. It's tough to get up and do something real, you know? I mean, sometimes I think about, like, the comic that I'm working on. I'm just like, man, like, should I be spending all of my time doing that, you know? Is that going to go anywhere? Is that going to do anything? You know? Is it going to, quote-unquote, be successful or help me, you know, achieve something greater, or, you know, what have you? But at the same time, because I've been working on that comic and I've been working hard on it, even if it is, like, not a super popular comic or a mainstream comic or whatever, people notice, right? Different kinds of people, all kinds of people, you know? And I've gotten a little bit of work out of it. And where there's a little bit of work, there's always more. Gonna go to the end on Minecraft? Good luck, Matt. Good luck. And I am dropping a crap ton of frames. That's not quite right. So I don't know. Every skill gets you closer to something, even if it's not exactly what you had in mind, right? I mean, I would have loved to join up with some studio and do cleanup or something like that, or whatever, but simple truth of the fact is that that boat sailed a long time ago. Stuff I truly love about animation and doing in animation. Oh, that stuff's outsourced. It's really brutal. Hey, maybe there's a tragedy in there somewhere, but I'm not gonna focus on that. Because at the end of the day, even if I'm not getting paid for it, I get to do it right now. I don't know, I guess the point being, just keep doing something and something will happen. Keep doing stuff. Job market's scuffed anyways. I wouldn't ascribe your worth in either talent or success to how that all shakes out. The unfortunate thing about it. Here's to hoping something changes regarding that. Okay, not bad, not bad. Man, I love this song. This is Pins and Needles VIP by Electric Children. Unfortunately, it's kind of a hard song to find. It's the only easy way I've found to get it is in this compilation, Electric Destruction, Chiptune, Raid Club Mix. It is there, though. Maybe... Kind of crazy that it's taking me an hour to do each train. I'll have to come up with a faster method than this. I may have to get sloppier with future projects, but for now, this is really good practice. That should be everything for this. Oh, wait. The line. Honestly, I think this is like probably Heck, I know people, really good animator I know who, geez, when did he really start animating? It's like his late 20s or something like that. Next thing you know, he's working for Powerhouse, doing some really wicked animation. I don't much care for a lot of the series that he worked on, but his animation was really killer. let's go and take a look at this. Okay. And this one, I'm gonna have his eyes opening. That's what it really comes down to. I had to make that decision, you know. I had to decide, you know, do I really want to jump in the deep end, move to LA, try to get the scrape by and, you know, pretend like the whole world isn't on fire, or do I find something else in the meantime? Just kind of set myself up in a place where I can kind of seek out opportunity. Back to the stream. To me, there's no difference. This is stream. I don't know. I like talking about this stuff. It's all part of the process of art, that's for sure. But yeah, no, determining that stuff's really important. Like, what can I do? You know, you have goals in life and all that kind of stuff. And they never come to fruition. At least not how you expect them to. Honestly, like, it certainly doesn't hurt. It gives me something to talk about, which I don't know if you know this, sometimes I struggle for things to talk about on stream. Mostly out of concentration sort of thing. It's like, okay, I gotta kind of maybe actually consider focusing on the, you know, I'm actually going to let's try that actually. Because that makes more sense. So walk cycles have a sort of sinusoidal movement to them, which if you don't know what sinusoidal means, it means this. Sine waves and all that. I just like the term sinusoidal. Basically what that means is that there's a peak, right? And then a dip, and then a peak, and a dip. And so it's important to get that. So initially I was thinking of having him kind of rise to this frame, but now that I'm looking at it again, this is going to be where he's at his peak, where his leg is up and he's clomping it back down, and then he's going to drop, right? So I actually want to have him rise a touch. Up there. That being said, I'm gonna draw the hood down a touch. A little tight against the bell or whatever. I think it's like I think he has a little bell at the end of his hood or something like that. I'm not sure yet. He makes a lot of noise. He's a rather noisy guy. An arm. Probably be like this. Maybe even like further up. I don't know. See how far we can push it. Really. Maybe not that far up. I'm not sure. Okay, so now it's hard fitting his eyes into this space when it's like this. Watch it, kid. Jeez. What the heck? What's going on over there? I swear, man, like around here, I kid you not, I see, so like everyone around here has those like stupid electric bikes or whatever, and the only reason I call them stupid is because the people riding them are stupid. Because I freaking swear, what you have is a motorized vehicle, keep in mind, that no one actually drives like a vehicle on roads, like on public roads, right? So stop signs are just a suggestion. Freaking, like, you have people like darting everywhere all over the freaking place. And then on top of that, you have like kids in like middle school age kids riding these things on the roads. And it's like, so what's keeping them from grabbing a dirt bike or a moped and doing the same thing? You know, it's like, I don't get it, man. What the... Yeah, I don't really understand it, man. Yeah. No, I certainly wouldn't be happy. shave down the eye. Okay. Okay, now I need to I'm actually going to have him, well, I can't have him switched too much, because being up on his leg is actually what's going to... Man, my freaking internet, man. Looks great. Thank you, Hazel. Appreciate you stopping by. Again, apologies for the dropped frames. I really do need to figure out what's going on there. And he's still got it up. Yeah, we can't on milestones, apparently. Actually, that is like a saving grace, though, is despite the dropped frames, you know, at least it's animation and not like gameplay, you know? 'Cause animation is at least watchable with some dropped frames. Well, actually animating at least. Let's see what that looks like so far. Not sure about that. Look at the wrist there. Okay. Can't, and I can also smear it a touch. Let's try that. This is like the #1 reason to get into animation is smear frames. If you aren't familiar with smear frames, look up basically anything, either like Disney especially is good, or anime, or even like Simpsons has some really good ones. Any of that with the addition smear frame, you'll have a great time. And you'll have an even better time when people start taking screenshots of it and going, see how terrible the animation looks? As they're looking at a still in-between frame of animation, and you're sat there just thinking, what kind of moron do you have to be to judge animation by pausing? Art style? Maybe. Animation? Animation is the movement. Focus on the movement. I remember a big one was a lot of people were like criticizing the animation of the newer like Pokemon seasons or whatever. Which, full disclosure, I don't much care for the art style of like the one, whatever one he was in, not Hawaii, Alohan region seasons or whatever. I didn't care for the art style, but the animation was still really good. The movement was actually really good. It's just kind of funny to me how many people don't have an appreciation for animation more than they think a lot of times. Sounds like me and King of Kings. Yeah, I'm not crazy about that art, honestly, myself. But, what I mean by that is, like, it's never really, like, the actual motion is so rarely actually talked about. And even when it is, it's not really, like, understood. Like, people's appreciation of animation, like, strictly animation, comes down to is, oh, is it smooth or not? Which it's like, not everything in the world is smooth. Right? If someone is struggling to like let's say it's like a fight scene or something like that, and like the character blocks it or whatever, and it's that like struggle, you know, or maybe it's like clash and they're struggling, and you see them like shaking and stuff like that. That's not smooth. It's not smooth for a reason, because they're struggling. They're in that clash, right? You're you know, the twitching of the muscles and stuff like that. That's what they're capturing and everything. If it was smooth, it would look like crap because it wouldn't give that sense of struggle. And it's the same thing with a lot of stuff. Like I remember that same professor who talked about the road to Pixar. He talked about what else have we got? Can't listen to that, unfortunately. I would love to listen to Mystery Skulls, but I can't. Let's pick up on here. Screw it. But he talked about, because he knew the guy who did the special effects for the first Terminator movie, and he was like, this guy hated it when everyone described and said, oh, it looks choppy. It's like, no, duh, it's a robot. It was animated to make it look like a robot. Robots don't move the way that you see in like CGI, a lot of CGI nowadays, where it's like super fluid and natural and whatnot. It's like, that's not really how robots tend to move. More so, like nowadays we've gotten better with that, but more so back in that day, the way that robots and stuff like that moved was extremely, like, they were just moving, you know? That's what they were trying to capture. So I thought that was funny. It's why I don't really like... It's the most common compliment you get when you're an animator is, oh, that animation's really smooth. Which is not a bad compliment, honestly. Like, because I understand what people are saying. But it's ultimately like kind of a layman's terms way of complimenting something, which is fair, but still, I do want people to have more of an appreciation for it, right? And I think that everyone can, even if you're not an animator, right? I think you can have a deeper appreciation than just looking for smoothness, right? In the same way that you can appreciate video games more than just, you know, being 60 frames per second. And that's basically the equivalent. It's like if you played a really great game and you were like, man, 60 frames per second, that was awesome. You know, like that's your big takeaway. It's like, that's not bad that it was 60 frames per second, but like at the end of the day, not gonna mean that much in the long run. I'm really having a hard time getting a sense for this movement, honestly. I don't know, at least I would hope that a game would have more than just 60 frames per second going for it. But I don't know at this point. People do obsess over that a little too much, in my opinion. The point being, you don't have to make a game yourself in order to appreciate more than just the frame rate of a video game. I don't know, maybe some people should, but I don't know. On the flip side, I do believe that you don't need to have made a movie or even animated to criticize animation either. You just need to know what you're talking about. That's what it comes down to. Now, if you want to direct something like an animated movie or something like that, then I do think that it's good. You don't necessarily need to do this, but I do think it's very good if front to back you make an animated movie yourself. Or even like doing a small role, like doing if you're a rough animator, having done cleanup before to understand how your mistakes or your workflow affects other people down the line. Because I've heard stories where it's like, the rough animator basically hands over an unfinished, untied down frame to clean up and like thinks nothing of it. But like to a cleanup artist, that's like the worst, because now they're having to sit there and do your job basically. Because cleanup aren't rough animators. They shouldn't have to think about the animation. The animation should be clear for them, because it's hard enough making sure that the drawing looks good in the context of the animation. I'm actually going to move this leg over. And I want that nice clomp. He's not being all stealthy. He can't really be stealthy. His legs are kind of awkward. His feet are heavy, so he just kind of slings them around as best he can. He does his best not to like knock things over or fall over. You know, I need to lower this arm actually to give it more of the arc it should have. Let's redraw that. Oops. Honestly, maybe even lower than that. Actually gonna manipulate this a touch. Just kinda play around with it. I don't much care for how close that is, but yeah, it's an in between. That's my excuse. I'm actually going to redo it as well, so I have other problems though. But we can do something like that. This needs to be higher up. Hello. Hello, Robert. More like... All right. What else have we got? Let's just throw on Krellis. Ooh, a triad. Okay, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right here is more or less the middle. So, fun fact. I get to work on thirds, not threes, thirds. What do I mean by thirds? Notice. So I'm working on twos, right? So if we look at the timeline here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That means that there will be a frame here. Let's just put this down for temporary, and here. That means that once I finish this frame, which is a breakdown frame between this frame and this frame, I have to think about my spacing on thirds. Yippee! The nice thing is I've already kind of figured that out in regards to that's what the rough is for. But still, that's always fun. Speaking of, when did this turn into a stream about music? Like that's every stream, my guy. Are you referring to my terminology with thirds? Because yes, thirds is a musical term. That being said, what's really funny is that if you are musically inclined, you are probably actually more lined up to better understand the timing of animation than people who aren't musically inclined. Because there are a lot of premises that pertain to animation the same way that music works. I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, if you look at the timeline, it at times feels like staffs with notes and stuff like that. And kind of the idea is, like thirds are, well, actually no, I'm thinking triplets. Something like triplets is a perfect example of how you can play with the timing despite the tempo. Yeah, no, thirds are super important, right? Tritone. With tritone chords and stuff like that are all thirds. I think. Technically, no. Oh, wait, no. That's a tritone. Technically, that's a fourth, counting that space. But if we're talking white keys only, which is typically how you kind of refer to it, whole steps. Right? Yeah. Yeah. More or less. It gets weird when you start trying to count things on piano. But yeah, no, timing is a huge part of animation, obviously. So this will actually be higher. So yeah, if you learn music, you are actually, what I should say is you should learn the traditional functions of the written score. That is like sheet music. That actually gives you a lot of insight, surprisingly, into animation timing and spacing. Because I have it. That's one of the hardest things to communicate to like a student who doesn't understand it. Is timing and spacing. Timing and spacing is like one of the more abstract things you have to cover in teaching animation. Ooh. Some Rimcraft. Don't hear this come up all the time. This is off of his latest album. Came out. Oh wait. Space Rage. I actually don't know what Space Rage is on. That might have been released independent of any album. That might be a single he did. On Chiptunes Equal Win. I'm actually gonna erase this. trucks or whatever they are cruising around, man, every time. Maybe back further? Or tilt forward? Now this is the part that gets a little tricky because his legs are switching now. So I need to make sure that I communicate that, and that's a little too low, honestly. Take this and just lift it. And this we want to actually give like a twist to. Is that the right way it should be twisting? No. It should be twisting the other way, I think. Yeah. That's physics and crap. It tells me I'm not going to be getting much done with on the comic tonight, but I was kind of counting on that. So. You know, I need to check something. Have him drop the hand a touch. Hey, what's up, fake news fish? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Am I coming to the play? No idea what you're talking about, so probably not. Hmm. Well, that's all right. Hmm. So fun fact, when you walk, your toes like barely scrape above the ground on the pass. In this case, he doesn't have any toes, but he do be having hooves. I actually like the idea of him like scraping his hooves a little bit when he walks. Which is why he actually lifts him so high in the first place, because he tries to avoid that. I don't know, it's so much fun to think about like how like the movement integrates into the personality. And in theory, my next couple of frames, yeah, it will go higher than that. Yeah, I'll be sure to have him lift his foot up. Right now it looks a little limp, but that's because he's not really lifting his leg as high as he's gonna be. Then I just have to do the stripes. I'm actually gonna... put this in. That. And cut this up. The color is so long. It isn't. Lower this down a touch. All right, let's see what that looks like. That's looking pretty solid. That's a little quick. No, it's looking all right. That is a little bit of a pop there with the horn. Let me double check that. I think if I just kind of correct the horn, it'll be fine. I think. There's a little bit of a pop though. Let me rotate it as well. It still may pop a little. Yeah, maybe a little touch. More than it should, but I think that's fine. All right, it's coming along. All right, let me grab some water and then I'm gonna keep going probably for another hour or so. And we're gonna do some comic stuff. So I'll just kind of leave this playing while I get some water. All right, now we got some light here. Okay. So we'll continue the in-betweening later. It's a shame though, because like, you know, 2 hours is like a good warm-up time. Spend about 2 hours doing cleanup, or not cleanup, but animating, and then you start getting fast. I notice. It's the same thing with comics as well, but the problem is 2 hours is the most time I spend on any one thing. Honestly, that's how you get volume done, though, is you spend many hours a day doing that volume. Okay, so let's take another look at the thumb. I might just do the sketch layer. Actually, let me take another look at this. I just realized that doesn't make any sense. Oops. Let's go line work. Let's grab rough pencil. tilt. Okay, so alright, you know what? Let me think this through. I'm actually gonna, as well, just do this real quick, because I can. I should bring the ship in for consistency's sake, but not a huge deal. Oh, shoot. Dang it. Hold on. Really? Oops. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. What I was trying to change was the fact that it's monochrome, but that doesn't matter. What matters is now we can sketch without trouble here. I'm actually going to have the net go way up and the body do sort of this to really exaggerate that. Not quite like that. So really push the pose because I want it to look quite intimidating. If I were to delete this... Oh. There it is. The heck is this? Super Spink? Earth? The heck? Huh. Well, I guess that's the thing. Hello, how's it going? The Guilty Gear. Guilty Gearhead. Yeah, that's one franchise I never got into, Guilty Gear. Then again, it's a fighting game, and I never really got into fighting games in general, so I guess that checks out. I actually do like that. Maybe this is the right size for this. So I actually really do like the framing of that, but I really want to exaggerate his pose. Minus the last one. Which one was the last one? Not Strive, right? The one that came out in, like, what? Okay, 2021. Was it Strive? I know a few people who got into that one. What was the one before that? I feel like there was one before that, but maybe not. No, not one that I'm thinking of anyway. So yeah, huh. So XRD was the one before that, or Revelate, or whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people got into that one. Visually, it was kind of interesting because it was that pseudo 2D kind of look that, like, they were going for with Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Shine Revelator and Rev 2. I need to think about the neck of touch here. I think actually it would be probably more apt to put the side of the head like here. Music was still banging. What was it about the gameplay that just didn't stick? Was it just the typical kind of lack of longevity, feature-wise and whatnot, that a lot of games suffer from nowadays? Or worse yet, community suffer from? That's one big thing that I've really noticed with a lot of games is that, man, like, the sense of community really wears off super fast in a lot of online games, in my opinion. Gibbed gameplay, yeah. I mean, wasn't that what did, what was it, Street Fighter 5 in? Was like, there was no arcade mode, like there was just a lot of stuff that, like, people were just like, there's not much to go for in this game, you know? A lot of this is going to get covered up, to be honest, but what isn't, it's important to understand what's underneath, and even what is, it's important to understand what's underneath. That is his right hand, good. I'm trying to be way more bold with my poses and whatnot. Yo, this song's kind of banging as well. What the heck is this? Tubers McGee, Legend of the Bear Punch. I'm writing that one down for the name alone. This almost has kind of a Danimal Cannon kind of feel to it, but it's not quite, something different. Nah, that's good. Interesting. Wonder if they did it to try to appeal to a newer audience. Because it seemed like a lot of kind of fresh blood came into the game, that scene. I mean, even I was hearing about it and whatnot. It seemed like it was just like kind of exploding for a lot of newer players and whatnot. Which can always be kind of a good and a bad thing. That's kind of an interesting balance, and I can't necessarily always blame developers for, you know, wanting to reapproach a design for the intent of, like, kind of rebuilding, like, accessibility and stuff like that. But on the other hand, you know, it's so easy to lose ultimately what made something great to begin with, you know? Okay, that gun is not looking the way it should, honestly. Something like that. That'll do for now. I'll clean it up as I... Hold on. There we go. Um... I'm losing track of it. Hold on. I actually need to think about the back of this. It wraps around. Does it just go over and tuck around? Probably does. How would I do that? Yeah, bear punch. Legend of the bear punch. Heck yeah. Maybe something like that. Sounds good. There's some weirdness going on with that neck. Wow. I need to actually think about how necks are constructed again. I'm actually tempted to... Truth be told, like... I gotta think about how far you actually can. I think that this is right. Truth be told, it actually would be... The neck would come more straight down. I'm actually gonna back this one. Boy, I was really sloppy, but I think I got something going here. Oh, this is a pretty cool song as well. I'm actually gonna as well change this to be more in line with the angle. Never forget, everything is in perspective. Use your folds and such. I think this arm is a little too big. I have a tendency to do that with these guys. All right, and then the last part of the puzzle is her. She's gonna be like kind of curled up down here. I will say, lately I've been able to whip out poses a lot easier than previously. Feels good to be able to, like, really get something solid out quickly. That being said, it is 8:10. Been going about 3 hours. This page is ready to be inked. Or this panel, rather, is ready to be inked for the most part. I probably should do a little bit more work on him, just make sure all of his anatomy is in check. His neck is a little screwy, so I'll need to double check that. Next can be kind of funny, and I've been kind of skipping on its structure lately. I think I actually have... I mean, a lot of it gets covered up, honestly. The OG Legend of Zelda? I actually have, yeah. I haven't beaten it. Man, my camera, 1 second. Where's mine? But yeah, no, I have it on the original NES, actually. Yeah, I think it's a little dark. Yeah, whatever. I'm gonna be wrapping up here soon. That wasn't my cloth. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Like, it's fun to go back and see, you know, where all that came from, of course. Well, yeah, it's having a hard time focusing on me. But yeah, I haven't beaten it. I still need to beat A Link to the Past as well, actually. What's really cool is every now and again I'll go out and I'll watch a video on like how older NES games like function at a like borderline bare metal level. Oops. And the one on Zelda was really cool how sophisticated their systems for detection were on like when the sword comes out, what the sword should do, blah 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 blah, you know, when he's facing different directions and whatnot. Really cool. Just so clever, man. Unbelievable. That's kind of something that I've really kind of been thinking about in terms of the way that like game engines are made now, where I almost want to say it's kind of a mistake to make it too easy, like an engine too easy to work with, because what that ultimately kind of does, it's in a lot of the ways like the simplification of the animation process, where if you like hand too much off to the computer and rely too much on the computer to do the work, you are sacrificing control and the analog for BRB has not been on the wall. But you're sacrificing the analog for convenience, right? And it's kind of the same way with game engines. I'm not saying that everyone should go out and make their own engine, because that's just not realistic or anything like that, but I don't know. What I've really learned over the years with animation is if you want to be a good animator, yeah, skill is a big part of it. You know, being able to draw a straight line, or, you know, understanding your anatomy and everything like that, but at the end of the day, what it really tends to come down to is the simple question of, are you willing to sit down and do it right, you know? First, you got to know what right is, you know? Whatever that implies for your goals with animation. Whether you're a traditionalist or... Come on. Or 3D animator even, or whatever. Okay, cool. But what was I saying? Yeah, as far as your goals go and everything like that, like, are you willing to sit down and like actually really work with your tools? That's the real question. Or are you just kind of relying on your tools to do the work for you? That happens a lot. I see with like painting, digital painting, where it's like, I can actually show an example of this before I wrap up. You know, a lot of people, they'll draw a character or whatever, and then they'll let's be a little bit more caricature-y. And then they'll, you know, paint it, right? And they'll use like a really solid brush to paint in, let's say, let's take a nice, like, this color. And let's say, the eyes are like very light. And then what they'll do is take like an airbrush or something like that, select this, and then just like darken it. And what you wind up with is this over-rendered kind of mess. You know, and that's your shadow or whatever. So you wind up with dark, you know, as the shadow. And then maybe if they're really clever, they'll do the light. But what you wind up with is this very soft tone, like no texture, like kind of muddy look. Whereas if you actually treat the brush like a brush, and so we go back here and we'll do gouache, and I'm thinking, okay, I want the light to be, you know, this, and I'm gonna actually like blend it, you know. And I'm actually gonna saturate the darks here. You know, you get much more texture, you get much more life in it, and it begins to kind of have this element of the analog, the physical. That's the most difficult thing with digital, is to get that physical look. Tools have been getting better with their like color blending and everything like that. But suddenly this is a lot more expressive, right? You have this sense of texture, right? And then notice though, it's a lot harder to get the result that I want. So I have to sit there and I have to actually work to blend the color the way that I want and really lay down paint. And then maybe even like really like throw in like a little surprise, like this nice green here, maybe a little brighter. This green to kind of give it a bit more shape. Flare. Emphasize the contrast of the transition of the shadow. So much more sophisticated than just, you know, airbrushing everything. And then the eyes, maybe like darker red around the edges, but keep it a little bit harder. Some of that rim. And then for the highlights, we go blue or something like that, and just kind of work it in. And then we turn that off, then we start to kind of see what our shape ultimately is. And it's much more, there's a lot more there to have to work with. And then you get like banding, and so you have to like kind of give it some texture and just dab it in. Otherwise it starts to look artificial. So, you know, it takes know-how to do that, but it also just takes patience. It's like, I could take the easy way out, right? And I could maybe even make it look decent, but it won't look good, in my opinion. Kind of clean up the edges, get it a little hard edge. And this is just a demonstration, so it's not like it's an amazing piece or anything like that. But, yeah. But so much more texture, so much more analog, you know, versus convenience. But I think it's what digital artists constantly are fighting against, is ultimately you're working in a very thin veil compared to, you know, molecules. But it is one that you can work. You just need to approach it like an actual painting, and you'll get pretty good results. There we go. Yeah, something basic like that. All right. Okay. I'm gonna wrap up. I at least got a little bit of something in. I was really considering not streaming. I was just like, boy, I'm feeling that tired. All right, but I will be back hopefully Thursday. Hopefully I'll be a little bit more energetic on Thursday and get more done. At the very least, I want to get this page done, obviously. And then we just have 6 more pages to do. And these next 2 pages are the last, like, really hard pages, in my opinion, that I gotta really sell. So, we still have a long ways to go, unfortunately, but we'll get there. That's how it goes. Sometimes you get a lot of time to work on something, sometimes not so much. Anyway, hope to see you on Thursday. Hopefully, internet will be acting better. Yeah, take care. Keep working hard on your stuff. And yeah, see ya.